Mr. Gorton is a 15-time serial entrepreneur and best-selling author whose companies have created industries and tens of billions of dollars in wealth. His endeavors have been in both privately held as well as public entities in the digital health, telecom, music, energy, healthcare, book publishing, aerospace, education, and water remediation industries. Throughout his executive career, Michael has founded and led industry-changing companies, including Internet Global, Teladoc, Palo Duro Records, Principal Solar, Back to Space, and Recuro Health. Michael is credited with being one of the pioneers creators of the telemedicine industry, now approaching $500 billion globally. Gorton is an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, a board member at the Texas Business Hall of Fame, and a tech pioneer at the WEF. Digital Medical Home, a book Gorton co-authored with Jay Sanders, MD, on the history of telemedicine, hit 1 on the first day of its release. Book Genius named his last book, Broken Handoff, the One M&A Business Book of 2019. His prior book, Forefathers and Founding Fathers, reached the 1 bestseller status on Amazon's historic fiction chart in 2017. Gorton's last company, Recuro Health, has set out to catch ailments before they become dangerous and expensive preemptively. His passion project is Back to Space, LLC B2S, a for-profit company that has 3 Apollo-era astronauts on the team, including Buzz Aldrin, Walt Cunningham, and Charlie Duke. Michael has a BS in engineering from Texas Tech, an MS in physics from UT, and a Juris Doctorate from Texas A&M. He and his family are climbing the highest elevation points, mountains, in all 50 states. They have completed 43. Help me welcome our guest.
All right. Well, welcome, Doc. I don't know how to even refer to you. Michael Gorton, how would you prefer?
Just Michael.
All right, Michael. Well, I'm honestly really honored to have you. I'm really stoked about today. Really appreciate you taking time. I know you're really busy, so thank you so much.
Okay, can I start with the first question? Because I know this is your show, but was that intro completely done by AI?
Yeah, this is where you need to check your work. So I did mine and yours this morning, but I never
Uh,
checked mine. I checked yours, and that's why there was the verbal part of AI. And I picked a voice special for you to announce you. But it's
yeah.
really cool. I took your bio, I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, hey, optimize this. And then I took
Uh-huh.
those pictures and I put it into this other AI that finds pictures that goes best with the narration. And then
Uh-huh.
I was able to pick a voice and then put it all together and then put it on there for you. So it was kind of
Wow.
my small little gift. I thought it was kind of geeky, but kind of cool, different from me just announcing it.
That was so cool because I think, in the time that I've been building things, there are places where you kind of feel like now something significant has happened. And I remember the first time in the early days of the internet when I sent an email to somebody in Europe and 2 minutes later got a response. And I thought, wow, we've changed the mail system. And then later in that internet company when we streamed our first video, and then for Teladoc, all of the consults we did. This is a new one for AI, right? So now we've got AI doing these amazing things for us, and it's just going to make the world
Yeah. Well, I know the intro you've done a lot, but I just want to hear from your mind. Like, I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but my biggest question to you is like, what is your why? Because I look at you and all the things you're doing. You're writing books, you're starting companies, and I'm like, man, you're not the common person out there. Like, you're always building, and right when I think you're done, you're like building even more. So, what is your big why, or what pushes you to keep doing all this amazing stuff?
it's passion, but I don't. So you can't elevate me above anybody else. One of my favorite early life stories was the first day of engineering school when the dean is up on stage and he says, "All right, everybody, look left, look right. Only one of you will be here at graduation." Well, shoot, I look left and there's a valedictorian. I look right and there's a salutatorian, and I'm thinking, how am I going to be the one who makes it? I graduated number 32 in my class, and now I've got these super brainy superstars. And what I realized was it's really more about hard work and determination. And so in the beginning, it was, okay, how am I going to survive this? And then you work hard, and these valedictorians and salutatorians are going out and partying, and you're staying home and studying. And then all of a sudden, something happens, an old song, another one bites the dust, another one, but so what ends up happening is, they start falling off and you're still there, and you go, wow, I don't have to do anything but work hard, and they're eliminating themselves. So, um,
Yeah,
at
that's awesome.
finally at graduation, who was there? It was the ones that were like me, who just said, I don't care what happens, I'm not giving up. And and that's not who was my dad or how rich am I or anything else. It's just pure, let's stay focused and not give up.
Love it. And I know we're going to talk about AI, but before we go there, I know obviously Teladoc, and I know we could have a whole hour just talking about all the stuff there,
Yeah.
but and I love the stories you have. But I'm gonna kind of push you to see, or not push you, but like ask, like, what were one of the most scariest moments for you in that whole endeavor? Because you went from like idea to here we are, concept, which
Yeah.
is such an amazing feeling. So was there anything kind of scary out there that you were like, oh my God, I have to share this story with everybody?
In Teladoc, was there anything
Yeah,
scary?
because I,
The-
I know you. I'm kind of prompting you for the DEA issue that you mentioned. I thought, oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, you have to share that with everyone.
I, so everybody who knows telemedicine now, which is almost everybody, it's a no-brainer. Like, okay, why haven't we always had this? But in the early days of Teladoc, when Dr. Brooks first approached me and said, "Let's build this company. Here's what it's going to do," I had the reaction that we all have today. Oh, this is a great idea. Simple solution for simple problems. And um, and then we go to the board of medical examiners, and they say, "Mr. Gorton, you will go to prison if you build this company." And whoa, that was a big shock. And but the story you're referring to is about 5 years into Teladoc, when we have an office and employees and tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of patients that are using the system. And I'm in my office, my admin comes in the door, and she never does when I'm in a meeting. And so I know immediately something's wrong. And she whispers in my ear, the DEA is here with guns and badges. Okay, as entrepreneurs, we know that things are going to be harder than everywhere else, but we don't expect that. you know
Yeah.
I don't want to be building my passion project and leave in handcuffs.
Scary. No, I love hearing your talks, and so I guess we can transition into AI. For me, from a personal note, I love AI, especially as being a doctor and entrepreneur. I figured let me put all those hats together and do one. And as soon as I played with ChatGPT, I think I lucked out. I honestly think I was playing with ChatGPT on day one, and just by accident, and I thought, holy cow, this is going to change how we do medicine. And I got
Yeah.
so crazy excited that I literally started writing a book over the Christmas holidays. And my wife, I'll never forget, kept coming into my office. It's like, what are you working on? Like, you're obsessed with this chat GPT thing. And I'll never forget her telling me, she's like, no one cares about this stuff. No one knows what you're talking about. Doctors will look at you clueless, and you're going to be talking all year long, and no one will know. And so fast
Right.
forward, here we are a year, and it was way more than I envisioned myself. My goal was just to help doctors and patients, and here we are. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on just big picture AI, and kind of what are your thoughts?
Okay, I want to start with this and make sure we don't forget to end with this.
Okay.
In medicine, the human touch is probably the most important component of healing. Now, in between the first touch and the cure has to be a lot of the things that you learned in medical school. And, but doctors, prior to popular opinion, are not superhuman. Um, they get tired just like the rest of us, and they forget things and they make mistakes. In fact, there was a Johns Hopkins study that uh, shows we lose 250,000 people, I think is the Johns Hopkins number, a year
Mhm.
from medical mistakes. And so, how can we take that touch? How can we take the smartest people that come out of college, the medical doctors, and AI, combine it all together in a system that really does change everything? And so, if you have AI whispering in the doctor's ear all the time, kind of as a reminder, the doctor is doing the touch, the doctor is listening to the AI's analysis and makes a decision based on what is the patient saying to me and what is the AI saying to me. And we're right on the lip of the cusp of this one. It's going to start happening and maybe already has started happening.
Well, we didn't prompt any of this. Doug just posted, "Hello from Kansas City. I am focused on responsible AI and how AI can be used to help create a safer health system, reduce medical errors." And he's putting here 250,000 deaths per year, more than patient adherence to the right treatment plan, which is around 125,000 deaths a year, do not follow their treatment plan. So thank you, Doug. Great transition. So I agree. I'm really stoked about this, and I'm gonna give an anecdote here. As an ER doctor, I hate to say this, but there's times where it's 2, 3 in the morning. I'm exhausted. My brain is tired. I'm drinking as much as caffeine as I can, but I know I'm not at my best as opposed to the beginning of my shift.
Mhm.
And how nice would it be to have AI help me with my differential diagnosis? Not that I'm dumb, not that I'm asking it, hey, help me out. No, it's more like, here's what the patient presents, here's the differential that I think. Do you have anything to add? And then it tells me, hey, did you think of XYZ? Did you consider that? And I'm like, holy cow, maybe not. Maybe I should do that extra lab or go into the room and ask that extra question. So I agree. I personally think this is going to save lives. The other thing I want to add is the healthcare IQ. I always say this in my talks. If I got a cigar right now, start smoking in front of everybody, everybody's like, "What the heck is this doctor doing?" Well, fast forward 20 years from now, I really think we're going to learn so much in healthcare that we're going to start doing things that 10 years from now and be like, "Oh, why were we doing that back then?" Because we're going to all learn because of this AI model that helps us.
Yeah.
Which do you want me to share that screen? You showed me that thing right
Yeah,
before.
yeah. This is okay. So, the great thing about AI is it's super controversial, and we can thrive on it or we can die on it. But there's a famous story from history about the beginning of manufacturing, and this slide that you're about to pull up shows the beginning of manufacturing on how it impacted laborers who were making things at home when all of a sudden manufacturing came in and could do it better. And so if you pull that up, basically what you're seeing here is the blue on the top is output. So how much are they producing? The black figures are the laborers that were producing product at home, and then you can see over on the right is the red ones are the ones who are working in manufacturing. So there's a couple of key things as you follow the timeline from the top down to the bottom. Notice first of all that the output, that blue, the metric tons of output increases, but the total number of laborers stays pretty much the same all the way through. Now it switches from people who are working from home to the people that are manufacturing, but the total number of laborers more or less stays the same all the way through it. The beauty is now we're producing so much more. And should I tell the Ned Ludd story? You want to?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
love that.
okay.
Please share it.
Okay.
No, that was good.
Okay. So, a really good example that is the genesis of two words that we use in the English language. So, Ned Ludd is one of these guys who is working at in a manual labor job. Manufacturing comes in. He lives in Holland, and uh, he's now lost his job and he's distraught. And a bunch of his friends have lost their jobs. So what they do is they all get together in this meeting, I'm sure over some kind of uh, Dutch beers, and they say, okay, we've got to stop this manufacturing thing. It's destroying our livelihoods. And so they decide what they're going to do is break into the windmills, which is where the manufacturing happens. Those big blades turning around, driving wooden gears. And so they break in at night, and they want to they want to destroy it, but not leave too much evidence. So the gears are made out of wood. In Holland, some of you may know, the Dutch ornamental shoe is made out of a really hard wood. It's called a sabbat. And so what they would do is the followers of Henry Ludd, later known as the Luddites, look up Luddites in the dictionary, would break in. They would throw their sabbats into the gears, and the sabbats were such hard wood that it would grind up the gears and break the manufacturing facility. Why? Because they believed, contrary to this slide you have up, that jobs were going to go away forever. And the reporters, when they started writing about it in the newspaper, they created a word of throwing that hardwood into the gears called sabotage from the sabbat. So
Mm,
fun
nice.
story. Ned Ludd was completely wrong, and this graph sort of demonstrates that.
I love this graph, and I see your point, and I like it actually. I know there's a lot of fear out there that we're all going to lose our jobs, that doctors are going to be replaced. I think in healthcare, and I love how you started. That human touch, it's not going to be taken away by a robot. A robot can never have that human touch, and I rarely
Right.
say never, but I believe that. And at least in my generation, and I think even my kids' generation, I don't see any of us allowing 100% robot just doing everything, and there's no human in the loop. So we'll see. I love that who you are, because I mean, gosh, telemedicine. I mean, and then fast forward, now we're in AI. I look at this graph that we're sharing with everyone, and I do believe that. I think it's just going to make my job more efficient. I know there's a lot of burnout out there. Doctors are just like done with medicine and retiring early. I think I read a number earlier today that was something like 75,000 doctors retired last year. And if that's the case, there's only a million doctors out
Wow.
there. So if that is true, that's like 7%. So hopefully
Mhm.
we're putting that much or more in medical schools. But I think we need these tools because maybe we can get some doctors that maybe retired to come back to say, you know what, I can do more. I don't have to work as hard because I have AI to help me be more efficient. I'm going to take that slide down. But thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I want to shout out to we have Mr. Doug Samarata. He's the CEO owner of Vital Health. I'm their chief clinical operating officer. It's a telemedicine company. So I'm excited to be in this space myself. I'm going to bring in some slides here from some people, and go with this one. Um, Again, Doug is sharing 1 in every 10 patients is harmed in healthcare, and more than 3 million deaths occur annually due to unsafe care. And in low to middle income countries, as many as 4 out of 100 die for unsafe care. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I agree. One of the things that I find fascinating is, obviously, better than me, Michael, all the red tape that's out there. I
Mhm.
personally think that we're going to start seeing some interesting AI applications outside the US first before the US, just because of that red tapes and pros versus cons. For example, in developing countries, I could see these countries using AI a lot quicker and differently than we would here in the States. So, Michael, tell me more about what other thoughts you have as far as AI. I know you kind of mentioned some other cool stuff.
So, okay, so I think AI, why are so many people dying in our healthcare system? One of the thinking parts behind starting Recuro Health was that we ought to be putting together an engine that catches things before they get expensive and dangerous. Why is it that people are getting diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, or finding out that they have heart disease when they have the heart attack that kills them? And there was a phrase that I thought my mom invented. It turns out it was a Ben Franklin phrase. Um, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so Franklin was not a medical doctor, but think about that from your perspective. If you can catch cancer at stage 1, it's a simple change your diet, change your lifestyle. And if you wait until it becomes stage 4, it's chemo, radiation, surgery, definitely going to change your life, maybe going to kill you. And if we can use AI to start looking for things so that people will get treated earlier in the cycle, then we're going to truly change everything.
Yeah, actually, that's well said. Tomorrow I'll be on Fox News talking about AI interpreting radiology and being able to look at X-rays, for example. And there's these nodules that sometimes we get, and we call them non-specific, but AI has gotten so strong that it can look at those nodules and 10 years before you have lung cancer say, hey, this will be lung cancer, which is
Hmm.
amazing. We're doing this in pancreatic cancer. We're doing it in different types of cancers. And I'm huge on AI. And I agree. I think if we can prevent, the better. I know that as I get older and I start aching more and I start getting slowing down, there's things that I wish I had done different. And I really think those things will educate me. And maybe I've already damaged my body to some extent, but maybe I'm using AI to help prevent these things and catch them sooner. I really, really think, fast forward our grandkids, I really think they will live longer. Because of COVID, our life expectancy has gone down in the United States compared to keep going up. But I think
Yeah.
AI is going to get us back up. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. And I think the thing about AI, so now how do we diagnose something right now, right? We we don't feel right. Maybe we're getting on the internet and doing some research, or maybe we're just calling our doctor and going in for a visit. The doctor then listens to the patient and says, okay, I'm going to run these tests on you. And a few weeks pass and the tests come back and they say, whatever the situation is. Here's my AI prediction. If you're wearing an Apple Watch, if you have one of these scales in your bathroom that you can step on and get your weight, but you're in your bare feet, stay on the scale for 30 seconds, it will give you all kinds of data: your pulse rate, your body temperature, your bone density, your visceral fat, all these different things. So, all of that is data, right? And if you're collecting it continuously, the Apple Watch or smartwatch every single day, all day long, the scale once a day or twice a day when you stand on it. Now you have more data than any doctor can ever look at, right? But you start pushing that data up to the cloud, and the AI watches the data as it comes in. And it looks for anomalies. Here's a bump that doesn't belong there. What were you doing last Tuesday at 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
And but it also starts looking for trend lines. So what do I mean by trend lines? Okay, now let's imaginary we're going to our doctor. We're sitting in that room. What's the first thing that happens every single time? They put a cuff on your arm. You doctors call it a sphygmomanometer. We just call it a cuff because we like that simple word, right? And you put the cuff on, you pump it up, you say, okay, Michael, you're 120 over 70, you're good. No, I'm not. You don't know that. It is a static data point. How great would it be as a doctor if you could have the ability to sit at your computer keyboard and go, I want to see your blood pressure at 3 p.m. every day for the last 6 months. Now you have a trend line. Now you know
Yeah.
if the body is doing something. And so now store that word trend line for a second, because how does AI play in that? If the data is constantly going to the cloud, the AI can look at it, it can look for crazy things, but it can also look for trend lines. And over the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot of the lab tests that are, spit in a cup or, prick your finger or take a vial of blood. All of those things are going to go away when AI can look at trend lines and say, okay, your body temperature and your pulse rate at 7 a.m. are in this weird trend line, and that is an indicator of disease X. And your pulse rate and your blood pressure doing this trend line are an indicator of something else. And so we're going to be wearing the devices that tell us time to go in for a checkup because we're hitting stage 1 cancer, not I don't feel good and the doctor saying, I'm sorry, Harvey, you've got stage 4. No
Yeah.
more of that.
Yeah, no, this is a great transition to one of the questions, and it's the same thing basically. And I have to say, I'm not promoting Whitings. I don't have any shares in their company, but the Skinny is Whiting. That same thing that you were talking about, the bioimpedance and weighing yourself. They have this
Mhm.
device that you literally connect to your toilet, and every time you use the restroom, all your metabolites, it's able to sense over 5,000
Yeah.
different items. So
Yeah.
literally every day, this thing is giving you data, and as soon as like a CRP or some inflammation starts indicator goes positive, then they can alarm the doctor, say, "Hey, something changed in your health. What? Let's
Hmm.
take a look." And it may be too early for us to detect, but we can now find your trend line and see that there is something that has changed. And so I'm really stoked about this simple thing, which brings to transition. There's this thing called Gatortron GPT, and the skinny is the University of Florida. That's why they called it Gator, for the Gators out there.
Hmm.
Tron slash GPT. And what they did was really smart. I just know from 10,000 feet high, but I know in about 10 days I'm going to a seminar about just this thing. But the skinny is they're using all that data, again, to your point, they're using all the data from all the patients. They're putting it into think of it as a chat GPT equivalent. And now that
Hmm.
data is confined. And now they can use predictive analytics, kind of what we're talking about right now. We can start developing medicine. And here's the beautiful part. Not to go into the weeds too much, but if someone out in Australia is listening to this and is like, "Ooh, I want to get my hands on Gatortron," and unfortunately it doesn't work. Why? Because it's specific to that population. It's specific to those hospitals. And they've taken the data so that they dissected out that North Florida is different from South Florida, from even across the street hospitals, and they're using that data for patients. And I'm like, wow, now that is going to be the future of healthcare, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah. In addition, I saw your listener just posted. Gatorade also is the same university. I remember in the beginning when they first. Okay, I'm that old. I remember when Gatorade first came out, and it was okay. Let's replace all the electrolytes. But where did it come from? That same Florida University with the Gators.
That's right. And just to rehash your point, John just mentioned this is a fascinating discussion, the leveraging of manufacturing, but today we're seeing the very essence of thought being refined by AI. The cognitive heavy lifting, yes, the differential diagnosis will be driven by AI. The smartest person in the room is no longer the doctor. And I agree. I have no qualms about that. And it's true. The,
It's
yeah,
but the okay, so we want the doctors to be the fastest thinkers. I mean, the all of the crazy filtering that gets done from when you graduate from high school and you say, I want to become a doctor. Um, okay, now you have our health in your hands. I want you to be the smartest, hardest working, never need sleep kind of person. I don't know if we properly structured it that way, but that's that's the way I want it to be.
yeah, I agree. I'm going back to empathy. John again says further empathy is practice. I'm sorry, practical construction that will allow AI to drive engagement. In fact, it's might even be AI, artificial empathy, that may be contrived just like humans. And I believe that. I actually been teaching some of the docs like, hey, let's use AI to be more empathetic. Give me the top 10
Hmm.
things that patients think doctors, why the doctors are not empathetic, and what words should I use, when I speak to a patient to come across more empathetic. Not that I'm trying to sell empathy, but to be sincere empathy. So good
Yeah.
point.
I
Next
think
one.
so,
Yeah.
Harvey. You're one of the best sort of all around AI experts I've ever come across, and you're so good at taking things that would take a long time, using AI to make them into simple tasks. And so I want to take a little break and tell another story. So when I was in high school, I read about this thing called survival camping, and my high school best friend, who later uh, 20, 15 years after we graduated from high school, I was climbing Kilimanjaro with him, and he said, "Let's build a company," and it became Teladoc. But go now. I want to go back to the survival camping. So this is Byron Brooks, and we had our girlfriends drop us off at the edge of the woods, and we had a knife and some string, and that was it. And our girlfriends were going to pick us up a week later. So now we had to figure out how can we survive in the wilderness. And so this is an important thing in AI that I'll describe in just a minute. But this from the second they dropped us off, we were thinking about what are we going to eat? How are we going to stay dry? Where are we going to sleep tonight? Every minute of every day was I got to find something to eat. And so think about this is what the cavemen were doing, right? And then they invented the wheel, and then they invented and keep going down. And life became more and more leisurely, so that now I don't have to worry about my string and my knife. I can go to the grocery store and buy the groceries that I need. I want information, I log on and I get flooded with all the information. So every time we create a new invention, like AI, like the internet, it makes our lives easier, and it opens our ability to be more creative, produce more. It's that graph you showed a little while ago. Yep. Now, doing the graphics for a production like this took you a minute and a half, right? Whereas before it would have been a half-day job. Or scroll back the clock 20, 30 years, and you were doing it with pencils and crayons, So,
Yeah. No, and I appreciate the compliment. I think it takes a combination of our experience and our vertical. So since I'm a doctor, I see certain things, and I
mm,
love technology. I think I'm the typical guy that just loves gadgets. I think you and I share that passion. And the third passion I think you and I share is we want to serve others. We
yep,
honestly just want to do what's best for what people, out there, and how can we save lives or make a difference. And so I think we both share that journey, and I appreciate it. I just as you mentioned that one quick little pearl, and it's a little long, but the skinny is this. For those that haven't heard me speak before, everybody's heard of Instacart. But what if you were diabetic and the doctor opened up ChatGPT with the plugin that goes to Instacart, and we're able to customize all the meals for you down to your allergies, down to like, hey, I don't like nuts, I don't really care for fish, and the doctor wants to put you on a keto diet, to be able to do all of it down to what the ingredients are, down to the recipe, but then put all that stuff on your cart so that by the time you come home from seeing the doctor, the ingredients, all those healthy meals are ready for you. And so I thought, man, that's a simple way that all of us healthcare physicians can help diabetics or people that need to eat differently.
yep,
Um,
yep.
all right, so we got a question for you. This one is a little long, and it says, "Greeting from Rome." So thank you, Matteo from Rome. Question for Michael: what about using AI to navigate patients to the best endpoint? Self-care, which today still requires the input of healthcare professional. AI may not be good enough to diagnose people, but it can surely triage them to the best next steps. This
Hmm.
could save huge amounts of money. In the UK, 30% of visits to general practitioners are for minor ailments that are only require information. AI could save the UK and National Health Service over 6 billion a year if they could use screen patients before.
I
So,
totally agree with Matteo. Greetings from Texas, back to Rome, right? And the UK. Um, that was one of the fundamentals at Teladoc. We said there are simple problems that could be solved with a doctor on a telephone who just listens. And by solving that problem, you take it out of the system. Now I don't have to go to the doctor's office and sit with the people who are really sick and slow the process down. Um, and the more we figure out how to do that using AI and telemedicine and the other tools that we have, the the better we make our healthcare system. It gives you, Dr. Castro, and the other doctors the ability to spend more time when the minor things are handled on the front end.
yeah. No, I agree. And I'm going to go through some more questions here. Any thoughts on how physicians can play an active role in the development of these AI solutions from Dr. Mohammed? Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. I personally think it's just being listening to these types of podcasts and learning. The more you learn, the more your creativity, the more your vertical, you'll start seeing things that, hey. And so I'm going to encourage all healthcare providers, not just doctors and everybody in general, to learn more about AI, because again, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, nurse, front desk person, you're going to see things and say, wait a second, I know there's this principle in AI, or I saw this thing, why not do that same thing? So I encourage everybody, learn more and be active.
Yeah. And also recognize that people like me, the entrepreneurs of the world, are looking for solutions that will develop and hand to you already stitched together. And those things are happening really fast right now.
This is a good one from Dr. Mohammed. Ambulatory blood pressure monitoring certainly would be great if we could get it for every patient. Issue tends to be insurance to pay for it, and that's the big question. Insurance companies, we can invent this amazing thing that can save lives or catch diseases a lot earlier, but unfortunately, sometimes our healthcare companies may not pay for it or intentionally know that this might increase their pay. I won't mention this device, but there's this company I know that invented something that would save kids and give them early diagnosis of this particular disease. And the CEO told me we're having trouble getting insurance companies to pay for this. And I'm thinking, wow. And he's like, because if we diagnose these children sooner, they now have to start paying more for their treatment earlier in life. And I thought, amazing. I didn't even think that would be even a problem for coming up with a solution because of the insurance. So, it's
Yeah.
just kind of sad.
But here's the thing. In the beginning, the insurance companies did not pay for Teladoc. And so we had to
Mm.
build a model that relied on the individual seeing the value proposition. And obviously it worked. Now insurance companies are paying for it. And so I think that, if it really is something that can help the patient save money, then the insurance companies will adopt it. But it is a pathway getting there.
Yeah. That's a good point. From Doug, how soon will with smartwatches have or blood pressure, blood glucose, accurate measurements available? Doctors are concerned about the dirty data. I
Mhm.
see Apple Watch. They keep mentioning that they will have this touchless glucose monitor on your iWatch, and they supposedly have the patent for it. And I'm sure there's some controversies because I think another company has a similar patent. But I think big picture, I see a lot of one-offs. Like I see some companies out of Europe that have these really cool blood pressure watches. Apple's already pushing for this blood glucose. I foresee, unfortunately or fortunately, Apple will eventually have all the technologies on their iWatch. And um,
Yeah.
one thing today that I'm seeing is these watches. There's an API that literally you and I, anybody in the world listening, can tap into and create their own app using that data. And I've seen companies already do that. As far as
Right.
dirty data, I think that's where the human in the loop is what you'll hear that phrase. We need a doctor in the loop or a healthcare provider or a professional in the loop so that we can look at it and say, oh, yeah, this is dirty data. But again, going back to Michael's point, we're looking for trend lines. Even if the data, let's say, is not 100% accurate, as long as we're able to trust on the level of the data as far as it's trending up or down, that alone can be worth gold for me as a doctor.
Right. Yep. I think and on that blood glucose, I'm actually on the board of a company called Socrates that has a little clip. They shine a light through your ear, and without all the technology, you can actually measure blood glucose level by looking at the blood, and so you're going to start seeing a lot of technologies like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Elliot basically says the same. A lot of huge roles, smart devices that can collect, transmit continuous health data evaluated by AI services. That's another we haven't even talked about. But yeah, we've mentioned ChatGPT, but there's obviously Google, Gemini,
Mhm.
Amazon has their own. Elon Musk has his own. So we're seeing the big guys creating their own large language model here, and it'll be interesting to see how they all kind of roll up into healthcare.
And we even had a soap opera last week with the CEO of ChatGPT or of OpenAI. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, that was another soap opera, yeah. That's and then we had Microsoft almost taking the whole company for free. Leon is from Israel. The question is how the source of the data is reliable. AI for healthcare should learn to be separate good data from bad data. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. W
And I use the word anomaly. I said the AI should be looking for anomalies. Trend lines are what you really want to find. But sometimes anomalies are, a minor heart attack or what I guess, like sphygmomanometer. You can't call it a heart attack. You call it a myocardial infarction. So,
Yeah, you're right. No, but I see your point. I mean, the AI, I think, can do both. Can kind of put you in the bell
yeah.
curve, but then you're looking for the outliers to see,
Hmm.
where we at. And I think both. Going back to the earlier point, I think it's all about us creating our own data going back to that Catertron example, we need hospital systems to create their own large language models. And then there's this
Mhm.
geeky thing called federated learning. And just the skinny is every hospital should have its own data, but being able to share the data so that it's training the big algorithm. But big picture, the data doesn't leave the hospital system. Obviously, we haven't even touched on HIPAA and all that stuff, but we all know that we would never want to do anything that would violate HIPAA or anything that would possibly come close
Right.
to that. Good. The next one, new inventions make it easier, but now we see human thinking is on the chopping block for, let's see, this is the first for humanity from John. I'm just kind of I'm reading real quickly, see if I see any other questions.
Yeah, but so, I think the calculator made it easier to do our calculations, but it didn't slow our progress down. And so, I think what John Nosta is saying is really important. We don't want to get too lazy, but the thing that humanity really ought to be doing is inventing the next wheel. And if AI can support us with all the menial tasks, then let's keep, we don't want the obsolescence. So keep inspiring, keep generating a new generation of creativity.
Yeah, agreed. I know we only have like a little bit left, and I wanted to make sure we get this. I'm curious, what are you working on, Michael? Anything you can share with us? I know you write books.
Yeah,
Any projects
yeah.
you could share with all of us?
I the Texas Tech University has decided they are going to deploy a brand new version of telemedicine combined with AI, combined with remote patient monitoring, all to try and fix the rural healthcare problem in the United States. So we've all been hearing how hospitals in the rural communities are closing down, and it's hard to get great doctors and any doctors really to work in the rural environment because there just isn't enough work for them. But the farmers are one of our more critical elements, and the people that support them, the ones that run the grocery stores and the banks and everything in their community. So we've got to solve that problem. So Dr. John Gashago just took over that program, and he and Jay Sanders, the father of telemedicine, and I just finished a white paper on this whole topic. How do we take AI, telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, and fix the rural healthcare problem? So that's one that I'm really excited about. From a technology perspective, I think behavioral health is a critical thing, but we're misdiagnosing behavioral health a lot. And so there's a company that I'm working with called Sensei that's figure out how to use uh, a smartphone to diagnose behavioral health issues like PTSD, and that's cool. But the next generation after that is okay. Now that we have a tool that can diagnose it, as we're going through treatment, is this working? And having the ability to constantly diagnose, you can see again trend lines. Is
Yeah.
this particular pathway functioning for the patient? And if you can test once a week to see if it is, then great. If it's not, then let's change it. Let's tweak it for this individual. And so things like what Sensei is doing, I think is really
Amazing.
important. And then
Yeah.
there's space stuff. That's another
Yeah.
passion. But
Yeah, no, I know our mission to Mars. I got to see some LLMs that are looking to be on the space shuttle so that we can help patients. I love
yeah,
that space stuff too. You and I are gonna have to talk about that on another session probably because we could probably spend a whole
right.
hour.
And then I
I
think
know.
the final thing, which is really a good way to wrap this, is longevity. How important is longevity? And I know you've been working with the man who I think is one of the preeminent longevity physicians in the
Mhm,
world, Jeff Gladden.
yeah.
And is it, it, it is there a potential podcast with Dr. Gladden in the future?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm
That'll,
coordinating for him for January is when we're shooting to do. So I need to finalize some dates and then we'll be promoting it. So I want everybody to know how can they get a hold of your books and do you want to highlight the name of two or some of them so that
well,
people
I,
can kind of find them?
yeah, like you, my books are behind me there. Uh, and they span from historic fiction to science fiction to business to healthcare. And so, but where do you buy books nowadays? Amazon. Just type my name on Amazon and they're all up there.
And also, you mentioned you're working on several projects. Is there any other company that you want to mention, or a company you're working on, or something you have that you want to kind of share with us, kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, I think, I talked about a couple of them. I think Sensei is an important one. There's another company called Kindly Human that I'm a big fan of that does behavioral health on the front end. And then one of the most extraordinary entrepreneurs I'm working with right now is a lady named Sarah Macon, also a behavioral health telemedicine company. So it's all just super exciting. Let's go change
Awesome.
the world stuff.
We will. Hey, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super, super busy, and it's my honor to have you today and just kind of talk to you and pick your brain. We'll have to do this again, and
Yeah.
thank you again for your time. So I'll definitely call you at the end of this, and we'll talk. So thank you everyone for
Okay.
joining, and say goodbye to everybody. And big picture here, join us. I believe it's January. We're doing an AI ethics slash. I have a lawyer coming on, an international lawyer, and then Michael Gorton just mentioned the next guest as well. So we'll have several amazing speakers. The last part I want to mention is I am personally working on AI. Check out my ChatGPT podcast. And the skinny is, it's a simple AI computer that's literally cloned my voice, and it does different medical articles that I tell it to. And check it out. It's pretty cool. And then the last thing is, I'm actually personally working on specific tools for hospital systems. And I'll be announcing that company is called Medical Intelligence Ops, that I'll be the CEO of that company that I'm starting. So thank you for joining, and please share this stream with others. And with that, have a good day, and I appreciate it.